Welcome to the Personal Podcast, the podcast where we get to know the real person behind the professional. There are 4 rules to the podcast: no business questions or promotion, no small talk, honest answers only, and I won't ask anything that I wouldn't be happy to answer myself. In this episode, I am delighted to be joined by Paul Edwards, who is Director of Edwards Commercial Cleaning Services. So, Paul.
Hi.
What's it like when your dream home turns into a nightmare?
So we had a 4-year nightmare of stress and worry and huge expense, which resulted in high court summonses, the press getting involved, all because the people that sold us the house didn't tell the truth on the property information form.
Goodness me. And you literally thought you were buying your dream house.
100%.
And so how did it turn out to be so bad?
Well, what originally happened, if I'm allowed to take you back a little way, back in 1998, when we started in business, we were living in a lovely house on a 1/4 acre of land in Darras Hall. And we'd worked so hard to get there. And the reason that we were there was that the schools were good, the young family was there. All of Hazel's family were around there as well, which was excellent. So it was just perfect for us, you know. And Hazel's passion is gardening. So we were there. Now, when we were planning on starting the business, Hazel actually said, we'll sell the house, use the equity, and so we don't have loans and there's no real stress on us. So we did. And we moved into a semi-detached house on a main road in Jesmond with no garden at the front. It was just hard standing for cars and a little triangle of grass in the back. And we lived there for 17 years. And once Michael had left, our eldest son, he'd gone to Hull University and become an accountant and moved to Leeds. Sally left and become a midwife in Salford and was living in Manchester. And Johnny was coming to the end of his education. So Hazel said, look, I want to move. And this was after 17 years living there, so I couldn't exactly say no, could I? I wouldn't say no. So what I said to Hazel was, you go and find a house. And when you've found it, what we'll do is we'll go and have a look at it and we'll see where we go from there. About 30 minutes later, she came in and said, I think I found what I'm looking for. So we said, okay. I think she might have been looking before she actually asked the question. But so anyway, we went to have a look at this house in Fenham. And Fenham's about 1.5 miles outside the centre of Newcastle. The Jesmond, it was about 2 miles out. So there was no real difference. There was no hassle there. And we went to see the house. Perfect for her. Absolutely perfect. She fell in love with the house. She fell in love with the garden. It was gorgeous. It was backing onto the town moor in Newcastle, so it was quiet. It was just fabulous. So offer in, accepted, and this was now 2014, December 2014, when we actually got the house. So we didn't move in until end of January 2015 because we had a lot of work done. We had building work done. We decorated it throughout. We'd replaced all the back windows. It was carpets, the whole kit and caboodle. So we'd done a lot, and in a short space of time, and we moved in. And from that point of moving in through to the 21st of November 2014, it was perfect.
Okay.
2014, oh my God. So we get to November. I put the dog out for his last wee and notice a huge puddle on the lawn. Huge puddle on the lawn. And
it's a big wee.
A big wee. and I thought, well, I know it's been raining a lot, but I didn't realise it had been raining that much. And I thought nothing of it, and we went to bed. Following morning, opened the curtains, could not believe it. The garden had literally turned into a lake. And I'm talking deeper than Welly's Lake. And that was the whole garden. It was just, there was waves on it. It was just terrible. So you just think, what the heck's going on? So it was too deep for Welly, so I actually put fishing waders on, and I went out there. I'm looking for something catastrophic. I'm looking for a burst water main or something, which, you know, it had to be something. Yeah. And we looked and looked and looked. I took video and I took photographs and actually put them onto YouTube. So if anybody wants to have a look and see how bad it really is, it's on YouTube. If you put Moorside North flooding or 108 Moorside North flooding at YouTube, it's there. You can actually see how bad it is. And we didn't know what the heck it was. And over a period of about 3 days, it receded. So it went back down until we could see grass again. And we had no idea what this was. It was just like, what the heck? Just don't get it. But getting towards Christmas time, it started to rain again. But this time it started to rain in the morning, so it was light. And this puddle just appeared, a huge puddle in the middle. And we noticed that in the far right-hand corner, we had a sunken pond as well. And that it went up and over the top and onto the grass. So these two big puddles just met in the middle, joined up, and then just spread out, and the water level just went up. It was like watching the tide come in.
Yeah.
It was horrendous. It was just like, what the heck is going on? So I literally jumped in my car. I went to Machine Mart and I bought 2 huge Clark submersible pumps with 100 meters of hose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the time I got back, it was as deep as your knees. It was coming in that much. So it was we just didn't understand it. So anyway, I rigged up electrics from the glass house, which we had at the bottom of the garden, across the top of pergola and down to the pond, which was the deepest part. And we put these two pumps in. And I ran the hose along the side of the side of the house and out onto the street. And these 2 pumps were getting rid of about 30 litres a minute each. So we were flooding the road, and it was running down the road, and it was too much for the first drain. It would go over the top of that, and into the second drain, and over the top of that. So, of course, the neighbours and everybody are going, what's going on here? So the next door neighbour came round, and he said, you've got a problem. And I went, just a little bit, yeah. I said, come and have a look at this. And he came round and said, I've seen this before. And I said, what? And he said, I've seen it a number of times. He says, they just get the pumps in and start getting rid. I'm like, how often? And he said, I don't know, 4, 5 times, 6 times in 2 years. I'm like, oh my God. And I didn't know what to do. So what I did is I turned to Twitter, didn't I? So I actually took a photograph and I put it on Twitter with a couple of hashtags, flooding, Fenham, this type of thing. And the local councillor picked it up. And got in touch and said, look, this looks terrible. Can I come and have a look? And I said, yeah, of course you can. So he came round almost immediately, and he saw this lake in the back garden. And he said, oh, my God, what the heck? And do you know anything about it? I said, no, but the neighbour said it's happened quite a bit. He said,
Was it just affecting your garden?
It
no
was,
other properties?
yeah. But what the neighbour said as well is he said that when they moved in, their basement used to flood, their cellar used to flood, and they had it all tanked, because they didn't know where the water was coming from. So we thought, okay, so it's coming down from underneath. So the council got in touch then, because this councillor got in touch with Newcastle City Council, and the next thing I've got 2 of the engineers standing at the back of the house looking over. And the first thing the guy did, he said, this is déjà vu. He says, I've stood here and seen this before. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. So he said, this is bad. And he said, but the person you want to speak to is a guy called Kevin Beatty. Now, Kevin Beatty is the superintendent of the town ward. He looks after the whole of the town ward. And he said, get in touch with Kevin. Here's his number. So I rang Kevin. And this is when it really started to hit home, because I literally said, hiya, Kevin. I said, my name's Paul Edwards, 108 Moorside North. And the first thing he said was, you haven't bought that, have you?
Oh, no.
Yeah. So he said, look, I'm on the town ward now. Can I come around? So we said, yeah, of course you can. So he was around in minutes. And he came round and he said, wow, he said, this rings a bell. He said, actually, last time I stood here, the last people, the Corsons, that was their name, who actually sold us the house, they had 2 pumps out to supplement the 3 pumps which are sunken in the garden, which are just getting the water away all of the time.
Oh, my goodness.
And we said, what sumps and pumps? And he said, well, they're underground and hidden and they've got lids on and stuff like that. And I said, well, we've never seen anything like that. So he said, just like the council guy, he said, I've got correspondence, not only from the people who sold you the house, but the people before them, going back to about 2003, about this garden flooding. So we thought, oh my goodness. So I said, can you get me copies of all of this sort of stuff? And they said, yeah, absolutely. So they sent me them. And sure enough, there's, we're in the garden, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, we're having to put pumps in, the place is full of water, and and we thought, this is awful. So I dug out the property information form and had a look. And the bit where it says, if you've ever bought a house, where it says, has the house or garden or surrounding land ever flooded? Mm-hmm. No. So I thought, oh my goodness. So I rang the estate agent and I said, look, did you get a form similar to the property information form when you sold the house? And they said, yes, we have. So they sent it. Same question, same answer, big no. Ever flooded, no. So actually my daughter, Sally, she went onto Facebook And the people who sold us the house went on their Facebook and went back to about 2012, and there's a photograph on their Facebook site of the garden in flood.
Oh, my goodness.
So we thought, right, okay. So that's when it all really started to sort of kick off.
And was it just your garden flooding, or was the house flooding
The
as
cellar.
well? Right.
So it was coming out from underneath, so the foundations will have been underwater. It was just, it was bad.
And why? What was causing all the
Off
flooding?
the town moor. So
Right.
what Kevin Beatty at the town moor had said was at the back of our house, it was a little bit like an amphitheatre. The ground was sort of shaped round as an amphitheatre, and we were the lowest part in the street. So all the water that was falling on the grass outside was going down and underneath and coming up under our house
Right.
and into the garden.
Goodness.
Absolutely.
How do you live your life with like a flooded garden and flooded
And the
house?
smell
Oh, and the smell.
and the cold, and it was awful because we had rotten vegetation, dying vegetation and all this sort of stuff. It was horrible.
How
And
long did you have to deal with it for?
4 years.
4 years.
Well, it was 3 until we actually got a remedy on the house. So what we did, excuse me, I spoke to a client of ours who owns property in Newcastle and said, look, I've got a problem here. What the heck do I do about it? And he said, it's a big problem. Yeah. He said, forget solicitors at this stage, go straight for a barrister. And I said, well, a barrister? And they said, yeah. He says, barristers will actually deal with the general public now. So I actually went on to barristeronline.com or something of, there's everything these days.
Yeah.
And I started getting all these clerks sending me messages saying we can look after that. But one stood out. It was a guy called Matthew, and he was in London. Had to be, didn't he? So he was in London, and he dealt with all sorts of property issues.
Okay.
So we jumped on a train, went down to see him. And this is when we started to think this is going to cost us a lot of money, because we were with him for an hour. We did get teas and biscuits. We did.
I hope they were nice.
They were pretty good. I think they were Marxies. There are other biscuits, by the way. Aren't there? But that cost us 1,500 quid for an hour.
Whoa.
And it was like, okay, this is going to be bad. But he had a look at it and said, look, you've got a really good case. It really depends on what you want to do and what you want to get out of this. And it was like, well, I haven't really thought about this in great depth at the moment. And he said, the other thing as well is, have you got a solicitor? And we said, well, no, because we were advised to come and see you first. And he said, good advice. He said, it's always good to get a solicitor that knows the barrister you're using, because it saves a lot of time. They don't want to know how I work. I want to know how they work. It just gets rid of all of that.
Right.
So they said, if you get in touch with there's a couple of choices, but they said the one that we really recommend is a guy called Nitin and a guy called Adam, who is at BTMK Solicitors down in Southend-on-Sea. So
Nice and local again.
Nice and local again. So we got in touch with them, and actually Nitin actually drove up to Newcastle to see us, which was fantastic,
Yeah.
And we hadn't committed to anything at that stage, really.
Right,
And he
yeah.
came up to see us, and he just said, look, you've got a hell of a case, but what do you want to do? And we said, I've heard this before. And he said, there's a number of things you can do. You can actually get for a rescission of contract, and you can go for that. It's very rare. Very rare. He says people probably haven't heard of it, but you can do that, and you can get them to buy the house back.
Okay.
But it's going to take time, and it's going to be costly and stuff like that. Or we can go for remedy, but we don't know exactly what's causing it, but it's been here for a long time, we know that, and all this sort of stuff. So it was like, what we're going to do. So we thought, well, what we'll do is we'll go in quite hard, and we'll send them a letter asking for our money back. So we actually sent them a letter saying, this is what we found, this is all the evidence, here's your Facebook page even showing it from here. You've basically told us porkies. You tick no on the property information form and on the estate agent form, and that's not good. So we sent that. Now, what I was hoping for, Charlotte, at this point was for them to come back and say, I'm sorry, we shouldn't have done it. We have done it. What can we do to put this right? But they didn't. They basically came back and said, you've been in the house too long, you've accepted it, you've had building work done as well, it's not the same house as we sold you, so go away, sort of thing. And that's when we thought, this is going to get really nasty, and it's going to hugely expensive. So back came a letter from them. We sent them another one saying, you really want to have a think about this, because you're in a bad place with this. And they came back and said, no. And it went on and backwards and forwards, and every letter's like 500 quid or whatever it is. It's not cheap. No. But we got to the stage where it wasn't really going anywhere. And so we decided to go the High Court route. So we thought we need to get this into the High Court because they're for claims over, I think it's 100,000 or something like this. And this is talking serious money.
Mm-hmm.
So we put it into the High Court, but all the paperwork to get to the High Court and put it in cost a lot of money too. Just lodging with the High Court, 10 grand. Just to put the claim in, 10 grand, plus all the paperwork to go with it. So that month we got an invoice for about £15,000 just for that. So it was just going on and on and up and up. But what I didn't realise was that there are court reporters. So when it actually got lodged with the court, the Daily Mail, the Sunday Mail picked it up. And the first I knew about this was they were ringing my office to try and get a hold of me, saying, we've picked this up, can we have a comment about? We were saying, no, we're not going to give you anything at all. I didn't want to make any sort of comment. So the next thing was it said, we are going to publish. Do you want to say something before we publish? And we said, no, not going to publish. Page on the Sunday went in with the photograph of the house in flood, his Facebook site, photographs of them sitting there with the dog. And, you know, these people have been lied to on the whole, and it was like, wow. So that happened on the Sunday, and of course, I wake up on the Sunday morning, and I've got messages coming through from people saying, you need to get the mail on Sunday here. And it's like, oh. So anyway, we got the mail on Sunday. But following that, the Sun started to get in touch. The Telegraph started to get in touch. They were trying to get me on Facebook. They were trying to get me on LinkedIn. They were trying to get me all over the place. They were ringing the office. They were at the front of the house taking photographs of the front of the house and all sorts of stuff. Oh, it was mad. And they were all saying, you know, can you give us a comment on here? Do you want, you know? We were saying, no. But what that did was that forced them into having to buy the house back.
Right, okay. Mm-hmm. So it helped.
It helped hugely, and we weren't aware of that. So they said, look, we're going to buy the house back. We want a year to do it, 8 months to sell it to a third party, and then 4 months to buy it back ourselves if we can't sell it in the 8 months to a third party.
Right.
And we thought, what? We thought, we just want you to buy the house back, you know. But they said, no, this is what you're going to have to do. And our solicitors were saying, you're going to have to be reasonable about this and stuff like that. But reason about it meant what every Saturday morning between 9 and 12, we had people tramping through our house looking at it. Oh. So it wasn't great. But everybody was making a beeline for myself or for Hayes, saying, tell us about the flooding. You know, tell us what's going on here, because everybody realised, and the estate agent, obviously, who was selling it, had to mention that there'd been a flood problem.
Yeah.
So this went on. They couldn't sell it in 8 months, and they'd knocked about £150,000 off the house and couldn't sell it. Wasn't that surprised? So they had 4 months to buy it back. They couldn't in 4 months. They took about 6 months to buy it back, but that got us out. So it was a huge relief to actually get out of the house. So that was a huge tick in the box, because the house was depressing. It was awful just being there. And I mean, that wasn't the last of the floods. It flooded every time it rained. So we were going out with pumps and running it out alongside the house and stuff like that, you know. It was terrible.
You know, it's not what you need, is it? Especially when you're running a business and you're so busy anyway.
And we were working from home.
Yeah.
So it was terrible. Oh. So that was one part of it. But what they wouldn't agree to were all the costs, all the legals, all the removals for two lots of houses. And everything else, and the decoration and the back doors and the building work that we got done, because we said we want it all paid for, and they wouldn't do it. So the High Court continued. We said, okay, the house is done. That's a tick in the box. But the High Court continued, and that went on for another year. But what happened was, at the end of 2020, we actually got notice from the High Court for a pre-trial hearing in the January of 2021, and that really started to kick things off then, because people thought, oh, this is real. And to be honest, I got pretty excited. I thought, I'd love to go to the High Court and see how it all works, and see how the judges work and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, I'm thinking, oh, this is great. Solicitors are saying, this could cost you $200,000 just to get this case heard. You know, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Hazel's now freaking out. Hazel's like, I really don't want this. I want this to go away. Can we not just make this go away? And I was just saying, no, we need to do this. So it was mooted. I can't remember who mooted it, to be fair, but somebody mentioned mediation. Now, I'm not allowed to mention what happened in the mediation, but it worked. So it started at 10 in the morning, and by 12 it had finished. And it was done. And we got what we wanted. It was a happy ending, and it was just like, thank God for that, So it saved a lot. But because it's the other thing about the High Court is even if you go to the High Court and win, you only get up to about 70% of your claim back. So if you're talking about a couple of £100,000 fees just for us, would have taken a bath on 70 grand. So you'd have won and taken a 70 grand hit just on the legals. So if we could make this go away, it was good. So it went away.
Yeah. Crazy. I can't imagine how stressful that was for you both.
Terrible.
And also, and I know I probably shouldn't, but I can't help but feeling bad for the other people who had to buy it back. I mean, yes, they shouldn't have lied.
Yeah.
But just an all-round terrible situation.
Yeah. And they wouldn't have got their costs back at all because obviously they had to pay settlements and things. So it would have cost them an absolute fortune. So there's a lesson.
Oh, definitely. Tell the truth.
Absolutely, 100%.
So, but I guess the people who sold them it beforehand, I don't know if they told the truth.
They wouldn't have. They couldn't have.
Yeah.
They couldn't have. Because, I mean, if they put a yes in the box, the next question below that is, how often does it happen? How is it happening? When's it happening? Where's it happening? And all this sort of stuff. And you'd have to put the reasons in. And if we'd have kept the hold of the house and we hadn't done what we did, if we'd have tried to sell the house and the property information for, we'd have had to tick yes.
Yeah.
And then, yes, it does when heavy rain comes and it's coming off the town moor and blah, 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 and it's coming up from underneath. And people would just walk away, as we would have done if they'd have ticked yes. I wouldn't have gone anywhere near it.
Yeah.
But they didn't. So...
And are they living there now, or do you not know?
No, they've sold it on. So they bought it back, and there's different people living there now. But I know they've taken a long time to actually to do it. But yeah,
I wonder if they took the people who sold it to them to court.
Don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
But yeah, nightmare situation for you. And
awful. But I mean, it was just the way. If they'd have just said at the time, hold our hands up. Can we solve this? We probably may well have still been there if it was fixable.
Yeah.
If it wasn't fixable, then we'd have said, you're going to have to buy this thing back. But they didn't, which was crazy. And they tried all sorts of stuff to try and put us off and bluff us off, We were getting emails from their solicitors saying things like, your clients are on a vindictive crusade against ours. And there's things like that happening. And then they put what they call a Part 36 against an offer that they made, which meant that if we had gone to court and it hadn't reached the Part 36 offers, we have to pick up all their costs. Wow. Yeah. And so there was all this sort of going on behind the scenes. It was just, it was horrendous.
Yeah. And then you think back to the property developers and why build a house where it's going to have those issues as well.
I know. So. There's no reason. I mean, it's a strange situation. We don't know if it happened all of the time, or maybe even when they built the western bypass into Newcastle across there, because they changed all the road system. Maybe that had something to do with an underground stream, or who knows?
Yeah.
But anyway, it was a happy ending in the end.
Yeah, and you live in a lovely dry house now.
We do. Well, the funny thing is that's another funny thing. So with the settlement, the arrangement that we actually got, Hazel managed to find a house with a garden which needed a lot of work on it, a complete development, and she put the biggest pond you've ever seen right in the middle. Honestly, I mean, you're talking 13 by 11 metres of pond right in the middle of it. And she said, but that was my choice.
Just for memories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, lovely. That's a nice twist on it. Right, we're going to change the subject.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay.
Have you ever seen a ghost?
I've seen something. I don't know what it was.
Tell me more.
Okay. Right. So we're going back to 2009. Our company had been awarded a contract at number 13 Grey Street.
Perfect setting.
Perfect. Great number as well, wasn't it? Yeah. 13 Grey Street in Newcastle to clean the common parts. Now, the common parts in there was literally an entrance area, a staircase, landings, another staircase going up about five floors. Okay. There was only one tenant in there. I think they were on the first floor to the second floor. So there wasn't an awful lot to do, but we looked after the common parts of this. Now, 13 Grey Street is Georgian, built in about 1830, so fairly old, okay? And we'd been looking after this for a fair chunk of time, and we had a lovely cleaner called Diane who looked after it. And Diane asked for holidays. She asked for a couple of weeks' holidays, which was not a problem because we had a new operations guy, a man in a van, called Phil. And we said to Phil, right, can you pick this up for 2 weeks? You know, we got him the keys. He said, not a problem at all. And he started on the Monday, and the Monday through to the Thursday, we didn't hear a thing. Friday, though, I was in the house. It was probably about 6:30, there or thereabouts, and my mobile rang, and it was Phil. And the phone call basically went, Paul, I can't get down the stairs. And I said, you what? I said, and he said, I can't get down the stairs. I said, where are you? And he said, I'm in Grey Street, and I can't get down the stairs. I said, what's the matter? I said, what's wrong? He said, look, he said, I'm on the 4th floor. He says, I'm looking down at the 3rd floor landing, and there's a ghost standing on the landing. And he said, it's not moved, it's not moving, and I can't get down the stairs. So I said to him, something along the lines of, are you taking the mickey? And he said, do I sound like I'm taking the mickey? And he really didn't sound like he was taking the mickey. So I said, well, what sort of ghost is this? And he said, oh, it's half a man. He said, you can only see him from the waist down. So he said, I'm looking at him now, and he says, I can see his trousers and his boots, and he's got a long coat on, but I can't see anything above the waist. I said, right. I said, look, stay put, and I'll come to you. So I literally got my keys, jumped in the car, and went into Newcastle. And as I'm driving down Grey Street, I can see our van parked on the right-hand side in front of number 13 Grey Street. So I pulled up behind it. And as I pulled up behind it, the van door opened, and Phil got out. And he was as white as a sheet, and he was shaking like a leaf. And I said, you all right? And he went, no, I'm not all right. I said, what happened? He said, well, I'm standing there thinking, right, you're coming in. And then I thought, I've locked the front door. You'll not get in. So he said, I thought, oh my goodness, I've got to get out. So the actual common areas, right from the ground floor right to the top, had a great big wooden banister, an old-fashioned banister, and it ran right the way up to the top. Yeah. Mm. So he said, what I did was I got down as far as I could. I closed my eyes. I got a hold of the banister, and I literally ran down the stairs.
Just a quick message from our sponsor, Be Daily. If you'd like all the relevant business news that you need to know on a daily basis delivered directly to your inbox, please subscribe to Be Daily.
And he said, I got to the front, I've switched the lights off, I've locked the door, and I'm not going back in. I'm like, okay. I said, all right. And he said, and I'm not going back in next week. I'm not doing next week. I said, oh, that's fine. I said, okay. So I said, look, have a sit in the van. And he sat in the van, and he's sitting there. Honestly, he was shaking. I said, Phil, we'll get somebody else to pick this up next week. I wouldn't go telling anybody about this. They're going to think you're crazy. And he said, oh, yeah, okay. So the following week, we got somebody else to clean the building, and heard nothing about it. And it was fine.
What are you thinking at this point? Are you a believer?
I didn't know. I was sceptical. I was thinking, okay. He's seen something. He's seen shadows or something like that. So the week after next, Diane's back at work. So I phoned Diane. So the conversation's pretty much, hiya, Diane, did you enjoy your holidays? Yes, I did, Paul. Thanks very much. That's great. And I said, Diane, 13 Grey Street. I said, anything odd ever go on in there? And she went, oh, you mean the ghosts? Like, okay, yeah, like ghosts. And she went, oh, yeah. She said, I just talk to them. I said, talk to them? And she said, yeah, I talk to them. She said, there's shadows kicking about. I hear kids talking, and sometimes I see shadows of children. And she said, oh, you won't believe this, Paul. She said, but on the 3rd floor landing, there's half a man. And she said, you can see his coat and his boots and his pants, but he just stands there, and then he disappears and stuff like that. And I said, what? I'm getting goosebumps. Right? Mm-hmm. All the hairs on the back of my neck have now stood up. So so she said, yeah, he's just half a bloke, and he's just standing there. So I said, so what do you do? She says, well, I just say, excuse me, and I vacuum round him.
Oh, bless her.
I said, what? So she said, yeah. She said, I said, so how often does this happen, you know? And she said, well, sometimes it's fairly busy, and other times there's nothing happens for ages. So I said, and I can't believe I said it. I said, well, next time it's getting busy in there, will you give me a ring? up here's going, what the heck are you saying? What the heck are you saying? But I'd said it, and I thought, oh my God. And she said, yep, absolutely, Paul, no problem at all, and hung up, and I thought, oh, okay, fine.
I just love that term, getting busy.
Getting busy. Oh,
you would never imagine just busy with ghosts,
No, you wouldn't. So nothing happened for weeks. I mean, literally weeks.
And were you pleased?
And I forgot about it.
Right, okay.
I just thought, man, maybe nothing's going to happen at all. Until this day when my mobile rang, and it was about 8:15 at night. And it was Diane, and she said, hiya, Paul. She said, you might want to come along. This thing's happening here. I thought, oh, my goodness. So I said, okay. I thought, be a big boy. I'll do this. So I got my coat and I got my keys, and I thought, I'm taking my camera. So I grabbed my camera and I went down. And as I drove down Bray Street, she was standing at the front door, and she waved, and I pulled up. And she went, oh, you want to see this? I said, right, okay. I'm thinking, third floor, if there's half a man, I'm out of here. so anyway, she opens the front doors, and inside the front door, there's another set of doors. So it's like a mat area. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
So we go into there, and she shuts the front door and locks it behind us, for obvious reasons, middle of Newcastle and stuff like that, and opens the next doors in. And I'm sort of looking at the staircase and the stairs going up, and right in front of me is a circle about that big. And it's right in the middle of the staircase. And I'm looking at this thing, and it's not doing anything, and I'm thinking, that's got to be a reflection of something. But there was nothing to reflect it onto. And it was... So I'm looking at Diane, and she's quite small. So she looks smiling up at me. And I went, what the heck's that? She went, I've got no idea. I said, my God. I said, has that been there long? She said, well, it was there when I ran down the stairs, but that's not the reason I asked you to come in. I said, so, okay. So she shot off up the stairs and said, come on, and ran up the stairs. And so I sort of went round this thing, which was like a disc. It was flat. It wasn't
think
round.
I've seen a photo of that. Yeah.
Okay, so I went up after her. So we went to the top of the first set of stairs on the first floor, round the landing, and we're at the bottom of the landing looking up at the second floor. And at the top of the second floor, there's a door, and to the left of the door, there's a big brass plaque. And that had Robinson Murphy, who were the people who were actually tenants at the time.
Okay.
So we're standing at the bottom of the stairs looking up, and she said, look at the plaque. So I'm looking at the plaque, and she said, can you see the shadow on the plaque? And I said, yes. And she said, well, when I was vacuuming, that shadow moved across the plaque, and it's still there. And that's when I thought, ooh, I'll give Paul a ring because he might want to see this. I said, okay. And she said, if you watch long enough, it'll move off the plaque. So just like downstairs when I went in, I took a photograph. And I got to the bottom of the stairs, and I'm looking up, and I took another photograph of this plaque. And I'm thinking, okay. And she went, I'll just see what's happening downstairs with the circle, the orb, whatever you want to call them. So she shot off, and I thought, you're not going to leave me standing here. But I didn't. I was brave. I had my big boy pants on. And so she disappeared. And seconds later, I heard, Paul, come down. I'm thinking, okay. So I walked back round. So I'm at the top of the stairs now looking down at the front door, which is where we came in. Now, this circle wasn't there now, but there were lots of smaller circles and some largish circles, but these were moving. So I'm looking at her, who's standing at the door looking up at me with a big grin on her face, and there's these things going like this. And there's quite a lot of them. Some of them quite high up, some of them quite low down. And I'm looking at her, and I said, what's going on? And she said, I've got no idea. She said, come down. I thought, come down? I thought I'm going to have to. So I sort of zigzagged through these circles, and I got to the front, and I turned around. She said, can you see the child sitting on the stairs? Now, my eyes were open, but I wasn't looking. So I looked down at the camera, and I lifted the camera up, and I looked through the viewfinder, but I was looking at the ISO and the aperture values and stuff like that. And I thought, I'm going to take a few photographs. And I took some clicks and stuff like that, and I put it back down. I thought, I'm not looking. The last thing I want to see is a child sitting on the stairs. I don't want to see a child. You can imagine it going, hey, you know. And I thought, no, I'm not having any of this. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness. So she said, anyway, let's see what's happening with the plaque upstairs. So she's off again up the stairs, and she said, come on. I'm thinking, am I going to run through a child sitting on the stairs? So I sort of went to the banister and I sort of backed my way up until I was past, and then I went after her up the stairs. I'm thinking, oh, this isn't great. This isn't great. I just felt out of my depth completely.
Did you feel something in the air?
It was weird.
Yeah.
It was just weird. I mean, like before, I had goosebumps a lot, and they were standing up on the back of my hands, and it was just like, there's something not right here. There's something weird going on.
Yeah.
So we went back and we're looking at this plaque, and sure enough, the shadow was still there on the plaque. And I thought, okay. And I said, so how often is this happening, Diane? And when do you see the shadows? And she said, I sometimes hear things. I can hear kids laughing and talking and things, and some, things like that. And she went, look. And literally, as we were talking, this shadow just moved off the plaque and disappeared. And she went, you saw that, didn't you? And I said, I did. And she said, what do you think? And I said, I don't know what to think. So I took a photograph. So I took another photograph. And I thought, I've had enough of this. Basically, I've seen enough now. So I'm sort of backing off, going down towards the stairs, and these circles are still kicking about. So I get to the front door, and I'm saying, and Diane's there with me, and I said, look, I've got to shoot, Diane, but thanks very much. It's been absolutely incredible. I don't know what it is, what we've seen, but my God, something strange going on. And she said, I know. And I thought, I'm not going to say, give us a ring if it happens again, because I've just about had me fill here. So I made my excuses and left. So I got home, straight to my computer, plugged the camera in and downloaded it, and there they were. I've got the circles there. There looks like there's something on the stairs with bent knees.
Definitely. When you describe it to me, I can definitely make out a little boy sat with his knees up. Like boy or girl.
Sitting on the stairs.
Yeah.
She just said, look, there's a child sitting on the stairs.
But in like orb form.
Yeah. It was strange. And of course, I got the shapes on the plaque on and the shape on the plaque off. And this was all within the space of half an hour. So it was...
I've never known anyone who's actually got photographic evidence of things.
I know.
So, yeah.
I know. So I couldn't believe it came out. I was thinking they're not going to come out.
Yeah, you think it would just disappear.
There they are. And I thought, wow. And the funny thing was, this was back 2009 now. And when we got to, we got a couple of years later than that, and there was a Halloween thing going on. And somebody actually said on Facebook, has anybody got anything spooky to show? So I actually put the photographs up. And people were sharing them all over the place, and I was getting all these comments saying, "Oh, you made it up, and you must have been doing some reflections, and you did something." I promise you, I didn't do anything.
I've shown it to a few people, and they're like, "Oh, but anyone could create a shadow like that on a plaque."
Yeah.
And the boy, they're like, "Oh, I see a little bit," and that's just dust on the lens, all of those things.
But there was dust on the lens down there, but there wasn't dust on the lens when I took the one higher up. And
I believe you, Paul. Don't worry.
There were two. Honestly, well, if you think the two front photographs, one had one circle on it and the other one had lots of circles and what looked like could have been something in there, and it was all within half an hour, same camera, same and I was looking at it.
I mean, why would you just take photos and pretend there's ghosts if there's not? Doesn't make sense. But we'll have to make sure these photos are available in the show notes.
Absolutely.
And so, because I have actually seen them, and they gave me goose pimples, my hair stood on end, all of that. It's bad enough hearing that story, but then when you've actually got photos to back it up.
I know. Unbelievable.
So how do you explain it all?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. There's got to be something. I'm not religious, but there has to be something somewhere, some sort of energy. I don't know what it is, and I don't know how we see it sometimes and not other times. The only thing I suppose I think it could be, the old-fashioned radio dials, and they used to crackle, and then as you turned it around, you could start to hear something, and then you could hear a little bit clearer. maybe in the spectrum that we can understand and see, whether it be light or sound or both or whatever it may be, maybe sometimes it just starts to get a little bit closer and then it just disappears again. And somebody gets a hint of something, or they see something, or I don't know how to explain it.
I just think just because we don't know how to explain it or the science behind it doesn't mean it's not real. I agree with you about light. You know how there's infrared, ultraviolet. There's loads of different forms of light that we can't see, I think, and there's probably more than that we do know about as well. The same with the radio waves. You know, it's frequencies, vibrations, and
Animals can see stuff.
Of course, they say cats can see.
Cats can see it. You know, dogs can hear the dog whistle. I can't hear a dog whistle. You know, this sort of thing. You know, I've got bees in the house. I've got bees in the garden, actually, not in the house, but in the garden. And they can't see red.
Yeah.
So, and you think, well, okay, so maybe we can't see into the whatever it is that this thing lives in or operates from. Or
dimensions as well, another thing. And
could be.
I did hear an interesting take on it. You know, we tend to think that it's from the past. Someone suggested the other day it could be from the future.
Okay.
Or even the future, we'd say, you know, AI, look at AI. We've developed things that can take us to the past from the future. So potentially, it all just blows my mind, no matter what.
It's absolutely fascinating. I couldn't explain it. The funny thing was as well was once I put it into this, once it became known that I'd been there and I'd seen this and I'd done it, and I was telling people about it and things like that. The press got a hold. The Evening Chronicle, I think it was, or the Journal.
The press love you.
They do. They actually went round to 13 Grey Street and they waited for Diane, and they wanted a story from her. And she said, look, I can't give any stories off you without sort of speaking to people first. And she actually rang me and said, what do you think? And I said, Diane, I wouldn't do it. They're going to make you out to look like an absolute nutcase because they haven't seen what we've seen and they're not going to go in and experience it, I doubt. So it's just going to be, you know, this nutty cleaner's, you know, cleaning an old building and says she's seen something.
It's sad, isn't it? I think times have changed though now.
I think so.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Otherwise, they'll be thinking two nutty people on a podcast.
That's me.
but no, I definitely think there's something in it. I mean, has it questioned what you think of what happens when we die?
A little bit. I'd like to think there's something. I'd love to think there's something, you know, but I don't think there is. Yeah. I think when we go, we go. And I think that's the end of it.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think there isn't. I'd like to be happily surprised one day.
Maybe you will.
Maybe I will one day, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before all of this, were you a total skeptic?
Total skeptic.
And
100% skeptic.
Now what percentage are you?
I know there's something there. I've seen it and I've taken photographs of it. So I know there's something there. I just don't know what the heck it is. You know?
So interesting.
Yeah.
Would you like to see more?
Maybe. I think if I came across something, I'd maybe understand and say, "Ooh, I've seen something like this before," and maybe understand that there is something there, and I've seen something before. Whereas before, if I just walked into a situation, I think it'd be terrifying. I mean, I wouldn't be the type of person that goes to Chillingham Castle on Halloween to see if I'm going to get scared out of my wits or something like that. But there's definitely something going on.
Yeah, and how terrified were you?
It wasn't. Do you know what? It wasn't terror. It was feeling something that you cannot explain. And once I'd seen a number of things and I'd been there long enough, I just thought, you know what, it's time to go. I just want to go home now. I've had enough. Did
you just feel like you weren't meant to be seeing this?
Who knows? I mean, Diane saw it a lot. And a lot of other things as well. She said she saw shadows moving about and things like that. And she saw this man on the third floor landing. I don't think I wanted to see the guy on the third floor landing. The rest of it, well, you've seen on the photographs, are just shadows and circles and maybe the form of somebody or some sort of child on the stairs, possibly. I think that's enough for me.
I wonder why Diane was so comfortable with it. Did you ask her?
Yeah, she just said it's how I am, and she said I just it's what she said to me. I've got to be more worried about the living than I have about the dead.
My mum says that.
Does she?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she said so they're not going to do me any harm, are they? And it was
good point.
And it was fair enough.
Yeah. Oh, it's so intriguing, though. I love that type of story. But yeah, we'll share the photos so you can all have a look and feel free to comment. So changing the subject again, back to kind of a family.
Yeah.
When it comes to success, it's generally measured in terms of business success or financial success. Rarely we talk about kind of success in terms of having a solid, stable family. But I think that's really is a sign of success, being successful. You seem to have it all. Particularly the family side, we're just hearing lovely conversations. Whenever we catch up, it's about, Hazel, the family, the children. How have you managed to maintain that?
It's tricky. I'll tell you what, it was more tricky when we actually used to work from home because you just could not get away from work. And that was difficult. It was probably difficult for the kids as well because, in a normal house, you'd be eating together and then watching TV together or whatever it is that you're doing. We disappear into the office to pick up on emails or to make a phone call or to do something.
It never ends.
And you disappear. It was a lot harder then than it is now because we got an office. So when we actually moved out of Moorside North, the biggest problem that we had at that point was they were going to disconnect the internet and the phone because that's what BT do, and they wanted a date. And we were saying, we can't give you a date. So we thought we're going to have to move it. And there was nowhere to move it to unless we got a serviced office.
Right.
So we got a serviced office, moved everything into the serviced office, and then thought, now we can move because we haven't got to worry about internets and all that sort of stuff. So that was when we started with a serviced office. And almost immediately, it made life easier. Although we have got an office in the house, what we try and do is basically switch off the computers when we're finishing, whatever time that may be, and don't go back in.
Right.
And that makes life a lot better. But no, it's important for time for myself and for Hayes, and also with the kids being around still, which is good. But it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. People tend to make it look easy, though.
It's not easy.
Yeah. Are there any tips that you can share in terms of juggling business, growing children and maintaining your relationship?
Yes. Use the moments and the experiences and step away and just take it in, soak it in. The number of times, I'll give you an example. I mean, if I take the dog out for a walk, I can literally get the dogs out of the van, take them for a walk, put them back in the van and drive away. And I don't even know where I've walked. You just think, I can't even remember if I went round the lake that way or if I went around the lake that way, or if I bumped into people, because your mind's just thinking about things, and there's swans on the lake, and there's squirrels in the trees, and there's beautiful whatever is going on. Stop. And this is whether or not you've got kids doing nativity plays or whether you've got your Christmas dinner with your family or whatever it is. Stop and just force yourself just to take a few moments and take it in and put it in there. And if you can, get your phone out, get your camera out, record it, video it, and just remember it, because everything goes through so quickly. I mean, we've just obviously had Christmas not so long ago. Christmas for us was Hazel, myself, and the kids, whereas 10 years ago it was grandma, granddad, and this sort of stuff. And they've all gone now, pretty much all gone now. There's only Hazel's mum's left now. So, you've got to take it in. You've got to sort of live for the moment and the memories and experiences. And it doesn't have to be expensive stuff. I mean, yes, we've been lucky and we've managed to take our kids to Disney, and I can remember them walking up the old High Street in Disney, looking at the castle, and it was like, oh my God, which was fabulous. But we get just as much joy getting the picnic and going up to Craster and sitting between Craster and Dunstanburgh with a picnic out and just having time and having a laugh and those are the times, they're the memories that you want to take with you and remember an awful lot about. It's not about the gifts that you give. I mean, if you said, what did I get the kids last Christmas, the Christmas before that, I probably couldn't remember, but I can remember sitting around the Christmas dinner table with and somebody having a conversation or telling a joke about, or the rotten cracker jokes were coming out. I can remember all that sort of stuff, but I can't remember the gift. It's about experiences. It's about moments.
Oh, absolutely. And what lovely advice as well. I tend to do that on big occasions, but it's true. You need to capture those sometimes considered mundane moments as well, but which are sometimes the most precious.
Yes.
Brilliant.
100%.
And if you could travel back to one moment in time that's been special for you and your family, what would it be and why?
There's so many. There are so many. There are obviously all the Christmases. I mean, they're special times because you're all kids together and they're happy and it's a really good time. I think holidays. When you've managed to get the kids together and go. I mean, when the kids were getting a little bit older, Hazel and I decided we're going to treat ourselves and go to New York. Okay, we thought, two of us go to New York. And we mentioned it to the kids, and Sally went, if you're going to New York, I'm coming with you. Yeah? And then Michael said, Sally, you're taking Sally to New York? And we said, why, do you fancy it? Oh, absolutely. And then Johnny said, I'm coming as well. So 5 of us went.
Oh, how lovely that they wanted to come with you.
Yeah, and they were getting on a bit. Now, it cost us a fortune in bedrooms because it was like, well, I'm not sleeping with him and I'm not going anything with her. So we had all that going on. But we went as a family, and everything we did was the family. So we did the Ground Zero together, which was, as it is. But we did, we went to see the Yankees play. Never seen that sort of thing before. And they were sitting there with the great big hot dogs and all this sort of stuff.
Has to be done.
It was just fabulous, and you just think of memories like that, and the family together and things like that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that is so nice. Again, how have you managed to create that where your kids are older, they've left, they've got their own lives, but they still want to spend time with you?
I think it's just how you bring them up, and it's about values. And I think it's very much about, we've always said to the kids, no matter what happens in life, this is your home. This is yours. So if you go and it doesn't work out and you quit your job or you have a relationship that doesn't work or something, you come home. And there'll always be a bedroom here for you. There'll always be, everything's here for you. And they appreciate that. And they do keep on coming home. Lots.
Oh, yeah. My parents crazily said that as well. And I did keep coming home.
They do.
And it's so lovely, though. It sounds like a similar relationship to my parents, like your children have with you. And it's just amazing. They're like my friends, and I love it.
100%. And that's how it is. And everybody's completely open. We just get on with it. I'm never happier than when the house is full of
That's
kids.
what my mum and dad said over Christmas, actually.
Yeah.
And so what advice would you give to people like myself who are like sometimes so overwhelmed with looking after really little children? Because like you say, the time goes so fast.
It does, and it's tough. The time goes so quickly. And at some point, they're going to go. And as long as you realise that there's going to be an end date somewhere, and they're going to leave home, and it's not great, and it isn't great. So what I would say is, as I said before, do the moments, do the experiences, do the picnics and the nice walks, and do things together as a family, and record them where you can. Not just up here, but, it's great now because everybody's got mobiles and things like that. You can actually do it and get them down onto a memory stick and share them around the family. We do that a lot. We've got the kids as babies being born in hospitals and things like that. And we just update the memory sticks and we supply them out so that, the granny's still got a copy of when, it's just nice.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah. And in your opinion, how can you raise children, because everyone wants to treat their children, give them the best they can in life, but without spoiling them?
You don't have to spoil kids. Kids, if they feel loved and they feel wanted and they feel part of, you bring them up to understand the difference between good and bad and right and wrong. But you also bring them up, or hopefully bring them up, to be independent thinkers, people who can ask questions, who can question you as parents and say, why
I'm already getting that.
Yeah, which is great. And I encourage that because if they don't do it now, they're not going to do it when they're adults.
Yeah, absolutely.
And look at you questioning everybody here. So it's worked really, really well. So I think it's loving home, stable, which is another reason why we had to do what we did with the house. We had to make sure that we looked after ourselves at that point in time as well.
Yeah.
Make sure that they're always welcome to come home, and it doesn't matter when. And you just have to trust them. It's all about honesty and trust. And if you've got good kids and you brought up, and I'm so lucky, I'm blessed, but I've got 3 fabulous kids. They just keep coming back, and it's great. And you've just got to make the most of every minute.
Oh, I love that. And what a lovely note to end on. Before, though, we need to do the 10 questions. Now I know you're used to them because I know you listen to the podcast.
I do.
But on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, I'm going to ask you to rate yourself at 10 things. Okay. How good looking are you, Paul?
you know, I'm a terrible marker. They actually mention this at work. They say this at work all the time because we've got audit systems and things in place. And I just don't give top marks for anything. I'm terrible because I believe, rightly or wrongly, that if you go top marks, there's nothing left to go for. There's nothing left to strive for. It's almost perfection. So I'm a rotten marker. So how good looking am I? Let's give myself a 6.
Okay. How funny are you?
I'm going to go 7. I love a prank.
Brilliant. Are you a good cook?
Rubbish. Absolutely. I burn salad.
That's like me.
I'm terrible. It's got to go 1.
Okay.
And that's a...
Is that generous?
That's a generous 1.
Yeah. Do you like to sing?
Yes, I do. I've got a great voice for the Gallagher end in Newcastle. I'm going to give myself a 2 and a bonus point because I do it loud.
Okay, right. So 3.
3.
Oh, okay, good.
I got 3.
But no tune.
The whole family. We're terrible. We're absolutely awful. There's not one of us can hold a tune.
Oh. Do you drink much?
Don't drink at all. I'm teetotal.
Yeah. Brilliant. Have you always been that way?
No. This is going to be awkward. When I was about 19, no, I was about 17-ish, and my parents went away on holiday, and I can remember my dad said to me, he said, "Go out and get bladdered, basically, and see what it's like, see what it's about." And I thought, okay. And he gave me some money, and I went out at the weekend, and I got absolutely bladdered. I was drinking everything they could possibly give me. And I got home, and I puked in the bed, which wasn't great. I think I might have even wet myself, which was really not great.
Yeah.
And I ended up having to throw the mattress out before they got back off holiday. And I thought, you know what? I don't think this suits me very much. Honestly, it was awful. So, but what happened then was I got a job which involved driving. So it was sales, it was repping, it was doing all this sort of stuff. So, no, I've got to go 1.
Do you think that was his strategy all along?
Maybe.
And did they question where the mattress was?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And it did have to. Yeah, I had to borrow a friend's van to get rid of it. It was awful. It was awful, but things you do.
Good story, though, to squeeze in
there.
there.
I thought I'd squeeze that one in, yeah.
That one might make the little reels that we share around.
Oh, no.
Parenting skills.
I think I do okay. I think I'd always do better. I'm going to go 7.
Brilliant. Are you a good friend?
Not as good as I should be. I've got some really good close friends. I haven't got many friends. Do I ring them as often as I should? No. Do I see them as often as I should? No, because it's basically family. And if I've got spare time, I'll spend it with Hazel or with the kids or with the dogs. So it's. I'm going to go 6.
I can relate to that one.
Yeah.
How intelligent are you?
If you're talking about question time sort of stuff, and if you're talking about university challenge, I'm not that great. But if you're talking about the emotional side, reading people, understanding people, empathy, sympathy, and all that sort of stuff, I'm probably very high because I can read people quite well. Mm-hmm. So let's go somewhere in the middle. Let's go 7.
Okay. Are you a kind person?
Yeah, I'm a giver. So I'll help anybody. I'll do anything for anybody. If I can do it, I'll do it. Whether it's give your time up or give advice up or whatever it may be, I'll do that. So this is probably going to be my highest. I'm going to go 9.
Brilliant. Final question, the one you've been waiting for. How would you score yourself out of 10 for sex?
10.
Great. The end. Thanks so much.
No problem. Thank you.